Hello and welcome to the Brother LX3817 instructional video. It's going to be very basic. We're going to start with the power cord, which only goes in one way. Can't screw this up. Turn the power on, a little light will come on underneath your machine, and hopefully you have the accessories, which sometimes are hidden in this little compartment. We're going to pull out a bobbin because we're going to wind that in a little bit. On top of your machine, there is a spool holder. You just pull it right up. I recommend putting it back down if you're ever trolleying with machines so you don't break it. Put a spool of thread on there and give it a few turns to make sure there's nothing catching. And if you look on top of your machine, it should have little cheat codes for which direction you would go to sew and which direction you would go to thread the bobbin. We're going to thread the bobbin, so we're going to follow those instructions. They should also be in your manual. You go through this first slit and do a little loop-de-loop around this compression disc, which really helps when you're loading the bobbin. Also really helps if I know how to go around that compression disc. We're going to take one more look at that. Through that little opening and then down and up and over the compression disc. Now we can get over to the bobbin area. These bobbins have a hole on the top. I like to go through the center of the bobbin and go up through the hole to have a little piece of thread to grab onto. Here's a little closer look. Right through that hole, and I'm going to hold on to that thread. This is how I do it. You can do it however you like. Now on the bobbin winder, when you click down, you need to push it to the right. This disengages the needle usually and allows you to wind the bobbin by pressing the foot pedal. I only do a couple of turns and then snip off the little end piece, and then I continue winding the bobbin. Remember to push the bobbin back into sewing mode, quote unquote, and then you can cut the bobbin thread. There is even a little diagram, I think, on the plastic and even next to your bobbin area on which way the bobbin goes in, which the thread hangs on the left side counterclockwise, and then you can follow a little arrow on the plastic to where you run the bobbin thread. It's usually underneath this little tiny hook right there. It's got to catch underneath, go up, and then it goes around this little turn here, and there's a blade at the end, so it just cuts as you pull it. Then put the cover back on. That snaps into place. So the standard foot for this Brother machine is the J foot. You'll be using it for most of your stitches. There's a little bar right there in the center, and the shank of the machine will lower down on top of it and just kind of pressure fit and grab it. The lever is on the back. You lower it down right on the foot. You'll get used to it eventually, and yeah, just lower it right onto that bar and you will clamp the foot just like that. So this is the needle tightening screw, and I've heard quite a few people say you can finger tighten this to hold the needle, which I've had experiences where I gorilla hand this thing and the needle still falls out. So if you have a screwdriver, I recommend using it. Just don't over tighten, but make sure that your needle is snug. So here is a common needle for the Brother. You're going to have a rounded side and a flat side. The rounded side usually has a number of the size of the needle, depending on the material that you're sewing. The flat side goes toward the back of the machine when installing. You can see the flat side right here. I'm rotating it so it's facing toward the back of the machine and installing it up into the shank. Common problems that you may have is that you did not push the needle all the way till it dead ends. I recommend that you make sure that the needle is all the way up, holding it into the position while you finger tight the screw, and then just to be safe, use a screwdriver and give it one more little nudge so that it's tight and will not fall out while you're sewing. Now if we follow the threading guide, we're going to go through that first loop, but instead of going any further for the bobbin winding, we're going to go straight down, do a little U-turn, and there is a little hook that pops up and down. Not really a hook, it's an eyelet. So if you turn the knob towards you, you can see the eyelet pop up, and if you give it 3 tries, on your 3rd try, you will get it behind the eyelet, and then you're coming back down on that line. There's one last little needle guide, there's a little needle bar that the thread has to go behind. I'm going to try to show it here. That little clip right there, it's got the thread's got to go right behind there, and then you can thread the needle. Amazing. So yeah, to thread the needle, you just go through the eye of the needle. Same old thing. Just thread the needle. Now, I don't know if you have to do it on this machine, but if you hold the thread and pull the knob towards you, when you dip down into the bobbin, it should pull up the bobbin thread. But I think this machine automatically catches it anyway, even when you start sewing. But if you see here, I moved the bobbin thread underneath and I took the top thread to go through the little hole in the foot and pulled it back. This is a super simple machine. It's just one knob. Depending on where you land it is a stitch and then different variations of that stitch. The one position is the buttonhole option. That's a whole bag of worms. And stitches 2 through 5 are zigzag stitches. Depending on where you land, they're wider, longer, etc. Different styles of stitches. And then 6 through 11 are straight stitches. So we're going to go to stitch number 6 and just do a straight stitch right here and test out the machine with the one dial. You just pick a stitch. You don't have to, there's no other variables. There's a reverse lever, which comes in very handy to do some lock stitching, sewing in reverse. I didn't get a shot of the smaller knob that's above the needle, but that's your thread tension. You can adjust that if you're having thread tension problems. If you're going to begin sewing, one thing to note is if you want to have the needle in the material or not in the material. Here I'm showing you the needle is not dug into the material, and when I lift the foot up, the material is going to slide around. But if you're going to be sewing and you want a precise turn on a corner, you want to dig the needle into the material before lifting the foot. That way it doesn't slide around. You don't want to be changing stitches when the needle is buried because that might bend the needle left or right while it's in the material. But if you're staying on the same stitch and you're turning a corner, you should bury the needle. And I'm showing that here. We'll get a close-up where I put the needle in, lift the foot, the material doesn't slide around, and now I can do a 90-degree turn, and it's pretty accurate. And I'm just going through the different options. There's wider zigzags, shorter zigzags. All again on just that one big knob, which was my high school nickname, One Big Knob. That's what the students called me. I was bullied. And there you go. This machine is super simple. The small knob again on top, it says 3, 4, 5 with little dashes. That's the common most tension you're going to need when stitching. There's less tension on the lower numbers and higher tension on the bigger numbers. Depending on what kind of material you have, and you might have some issues, you can adjust that if you want. But for the most part, you've got your stitch selector and your reverse stitch. You're good to go. This is a great little beginner machine. If you have one and now you know how to properly thread it and wind the bobbin, get to sewing, get to those projects. That is the Brother LX3817 basic instructional video with a bonus. You will never see this again unless you rewind it. Look at that. Look at that gorgeous beast doing a slow motion dive. There you go. You're welcome. You can never unsee that now.